What do you want, Stephen?
Tiny Floating Whale was voiced by Susan Egan, who also happened to have been the actress who voiced Rose Quartz herself.
A tiny floating whale?
This means that even though Stephen, and by extension us as the audience, would officially see Rose Quartz for the first time on screen during the season 1 episode titled Lion Free Straight to Video,
Because you're going to be something extraordinary. You're going to be a human being.
her first actual quote-unquote appearance on the show went down much earlier during the season 1 episode titled Rose's Room.
I want to be back with the gems!
And I've been holding onto the controversial belief that Tiny Floating Whale was literally Rose Quartz talking to our boy Stephen inside of a room for a little over a decade now, because I'm not convinced that the original Rose Quartz is actually gone.
You what?
Don't get me wrong, I'm definitely not trying to imply that Rose Quartz is still alive inside of our old Gemstone after all this time, because it's clear that the entire point of the finale of a series titled Change Your Mind was to put that idea to rest.
If you're not Pink, then who are you?
Pink Diamond is undoubtedly gone when it comes to existing inside of Steven's Gemstone, and that has become even clearer after the events of a Steven Universe movie along with Steven Universe Future.
You remember how she was, with her destructive powers throwing tantrums left and right? She had a screen that could crack the walls.
But that doesn't necessarily mean that Rose Quartz, as in her consciousness and will, couldn't still be alive in a plethora of other convoluted ways in this magical universe.
What?
Alright, so the Crystal Heart was first introduced to us fairly early on in the series during the season 1 episode titled Together Breakfast.
Pearl, sweet! 2 out of 3!
Stephen, be careful!
But wait! There's more!
You really shouldn't be in here. This is the Crystal Heart. Oh, it's connected to the most dangerous areas of the temple.
Or is it?
And the structure appeared to have worked like a regular heart, as in it was specifically designed by the crystal gems to pump an essential form of liquid throughout the most dangerous parts of a temple, and that concerningly cryptic description is coming straight from our girl Pearl.
Whoa.
Now, these details surrounding the existence and purpose of a crystal heart would be intriguing enough, but when you combine it with the fact that the very next room that our boy Stephen would have the honor of entering for a split second would literally be Rose's room.
Oh hey, this isn't so bad.
Then I'm thinking that there has to be something darker going on with Rose's room under the surface that we're just not seeing yet, because the trail of strangely cryptic and unanswered questions surrounding locations and structures like the Crystal Heart, Rose's room, and Rose's fountain doesn't even stop there.
I can't believe it!
Yeah, I mean, we'd learned from Eyeball during the season 3 episode titled Bubbled that Rose Quartz most likely created her fountain and protected it with her many planned constructs so that her small army of crystal gems had a safe place to rest and heal during the height of a gem war.
There were rumors back during the war that Rose Quartz could heal her crystal gem soldiers, keeping her small army in contention with the superior forces of home.
And that all makes perfect sense when you actually take a step back and think about it, but what doesn't make any sense is the fact that Stephen would have an incredibly short vision of his mother's statue reaching out to him when he was submerged near the fountain. Based on everything that we'd learned from our girl Pearl during the season 1 episode titled An Indirect Kiss,
Rose's fountain, overflowing with your mother's healing lacrimal essence.
We don't do that here.
we know that Rose's fountain pumps her diamond essence throughout the structure, or as Pearl would creepily put it, her healing lacrimal essence. I'm thinking that it would make perfect sense and answer a ton of other unanswered questions if the Crystal Heart was designed by the crystal gems after they would decide to begin building the temple to literally pump Rose Quartz's diamond essence throughout the structure. I mean, that heart has to be pumping something, and you know, if we're being honest, then diamond essence is basically the only liquid of significance that we've ever been introduced to on the show, so there's that.
He's out of line, but he's right.
But yeah, where does that really leave us when it comes to the admittedly wild headcanon that I've been holding onto for so long that Rose Quartz's consciousness and will might still be alive in other ways? Well, based on the Steven Universe Future episode titled Everything's Fine, along with a ton of other earlier episodes on the main show, we know that organic beings, which were created using the essence of the diamonds, always retain a certain level of their creator's will. Think back to the events of a season 1 episode titled The Test. Garnet, Amethyst, and Pearl in an attempt to make Stephen feel more loved and confident in himself, made the decision to create an obstacle course for him to tackle on his own inside of a temple. Except they'd seemingly choose to design the entire course without the presence of anything that would actually be able to physically hurt Stephen, which naturally leads them to hurting him emotionally instead.
Do you think he hurt himself?
There's no way. It's impossible for him to fail.
But what if Garnet, Amethyst, and Pearl didn't specifically go out of their way to design the obstacle course with those safety measures for Stephen in place, and instead just exploited the newly found knowledge of how the temple has always truly worked? Before Stephen would enter his mother's room for the second time during the season 1 episode titled Rosie's Room, we'd see firsthand that Garnet, Amethyst, and Pearl were all horrified of the idea of Stephen venturing into his mother's room alone, which was another detail that has never fully been explained.
Everyone was acting super weird and...
Let Rose's room build the whole town? It can't handle a task like that! Thank goodness you're okay!
I mean, we know that the crystal gems were concerned that Stephen would have overloaded the room with a bunch of outlandish commands, which they were technically right on the money on. But I'm thinking that Stephen, being the person who is now in possession of Pink Diamond's gemstone, has a stronger connection to the temple than the other crystal gems. As in, it's practically impossible for the temple to be able to physically harm Stephen because of his mother's will still being active inside of the structure's power source. This would explain almost perfectly why Tiny Floating Whale only decided to speak to Stephen when he was at the point of almost overloading his mother's room during the climax of Rosie's room. It was because that if Stephen actually managed to push Rosie's room past its breaking point, then he would have actually have gotten injured, and the crystal heart probably wasn't made with the ability to physically hurt its creator.
What do you want, Stephen?
That's better.
I'm thinking that Stephen's strange vision of his mother's statue reaching out to him while he was submerged that went down in an indirect kiss was another sign that Rose Quartz's will was still thriving in this universe. Remember when our boy Stephen, after returning to Earth, would decide to talk to his mother in person inside of Rose's room during the season 4 episode titled Storming the Room? Well, while I know that it's been heavily debated within the community ever since the episode was first released about whether Stephen was actually speaking to his mother through the room during the climax of the episode or not, I'm of course on the side of people who believe that Stephen was actually speaking to his mother, or at least the remnants of her will that only comes out when Stephen is put under extreme levels of stress inside of a temple. There was a very clear distinction between the Rose Quartz that Stephen was speaking to at the beginning of the episode and the one that he would get the chance to speak to after he'd have his huge meltdown.
Nice catch, son.
What a sick joke!
You know that isn't true. In the tape I left you, I told you how much I wanted to have you and let you exist. Do you think what I said to you in the tape was a lie?
Either way, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this discussion, and I'm really hoping that Last of Us Stars will be able to find the time to reveal the truth behind Rose's room to all of us, because I think that it's another great contender to get called out as being one of the darkest secrets of a fallen gem empire.